If there is one series that everyone has wanted me to bring back, it is this, NBA Battlegrounds, a series in which we put the best of the best head to head to find a clearer picture of exactly who the better player is. Now, when I first started doing the series, it was a very elaborate category by category comparison and then a total score at the end to decide who the better player is. However, I found that this method was highly flawed as it, one, favored more versatile players, for example a Westbrook versus Curry comparison, and two, it lacked a lot of context as to why players get the stats that they do, and as I've learned since then, it is highly important to add context to stats in assessing a player's abilities and career. Now, I don't want to spend most of the time talking about this video series and the video format, and I'm sure you don't either, so I'll just give a quick rundown of the changes I've made to the series. Well, for one, instead of doing the category by category score sheet method, we will simply be looking at the strengths and weaknesses of each player. This allows me to give proper context as to why each player is so good, and it also allows it to be more open-ended for you guys, which is important, as the next change I made is instead of coming up with the concrete score to decide who's better, I will instead give my input on who I personally think is better, and then we'll allow you guys as well to leave your thoughts in the comment section down below and invite you guys to participate in the Twitter poll that will last roughly a week. By participating in the poll through the Gleam link in the description, you will also be automatically entered in the giveaway for a $25 Amazon gift card that I will announce the day after the poll is over on my Twitter. So I would highly recommend also following me on Twitter while you guys are at it to stay up to date on that. But without further ado, Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks versus Kawhi Leonard of the Toronto Raptors. The battle for the king of the East, and some may argue the battle for the king of the league. Two of the best forwards in the game with skills and abilities that are historically great. Both had phenomenal regular seasons, and both are having phenomenal postseason runs as well. Who is better? Well, roll the intro, coach. Giannis Antetokounmpo pros. Let's first start off with the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Standing at 6'11", 245 pounds, we have never seen a player like him in NBA history. Never have we ever seen this combination of length, strength, and guard-like skills until now. And it's because of this that he has evolved into one of the most unstoppable forces in the NBA. As this season he led the Milwaukee Bucks to an NBA best 60 wins, averaging roughly 28 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, roughly a steal and a block per game on an astonishing 58% shooting from the field. Him coming down the court at full speed is something to really be scared of, as this combination of athleticism and ball handling skills make him nearly impossible to guard in that scenario. He's hard to keep up with because of his extremely long strides. He can get crafty with it with his long Euro step, he can do spin moves, or sometimes he just straight up yams on you. His improvement in the half-court set the past 2 years, in my opinion, is what's really evolved him to being as dominant as he is right now. He's shown to be a good cutter, has improved his footwork to get to his spots more often than not, has a pretty good post game that is really deadly, especially when he gets mismatches, has a respectable mid-range game, is a really good dump-off player a la Clint Capella-esque, but let's not also forget about his playmaking ability, which adds to how unguardable he is. Because even if you do bring a double team, he has shown the ability to be able to find an open man and make the right pass, as shown by the 6 assists per game. And when he's on a team surrounded by shooters, now let's just say they didn't get to 60 wins for nothing. Defensively, I would probably make the case that he is the most versatile defender in the league. This is a guy who has the length and strength to be a solid rim protector, and the athleticism to legitimately guard and switch on all 5 positions. His defensive versatility is perfect for the modern NBA, and is a big part as to why the Bucks have one of the best defenses in the league, and also why he is a top 3 candidate for Defensive Player of the Year this year. And to think that he is only 24 years old is extremely scary, because the idea that we possibly and probably haven't seen the best of him is insane. Giannis Antetokounmpo cons. Now, despite Giannis's amazing talent, there are some weaknesses in his game right now that he definitely can fix in the future, however, regardless, are still a problem at the moment. Number one has to be his shooting, which we've seen at times can cost him a game or two, which, especially in the playoffs when the game is slowed down, officials are more lenient on physicality, and every game matters, is highly crucial. While, like I said in his pros, Giannis has shown some serious improvement in his half-court game, and honestly his three-point shooting as well, I still wouldn't classify his shot-making ability in the half-court as elite, at least outside the paint. Because of his lack of three-point shot, teams can afford to sag off and take the 30% chance of him hitting a three-point shot than the 60% plus chance he hits a layup or converts an and one by letting him drive. What Giannis does to compensate is come at you with a full head of steam starting from half court, which is still very hard to guard, but when you can match him up with a player like Al Horford or Kawhi, for instance, who have the combination of strength, length, and agility to handle such scenario, or at least, better than others, it can sometimes just end up in Giannis forcing up a bad shot in order to draw contact and get a foul, which again in the playoffs can be riskier than the regular season. His handles also aren't crafty enough to get to his spots whenever he wants to without the use of brute strength, which can allow him to be predictable at times, and when he starts forcing stuff, can lead to turnovers, which is also a reason why his assist to turnover ratio isn't the best. However, despite him being predictable, again, it is easier said than done because his moves are really hard to guard because of his combination of frame, skill, and athleticism. Again, as I mentioned, while being a good cutter and a dump-off guy and a pick-and-roll big, Giannis is barely an off-ball threat in terms of shooting-wise, which is also a big weakness in his game, as to be effective in the half-court set, he really does need the ball in his hands more often than not. Kawhi Leonard pros. Kawhi Leonard on offense is one of those players who novices can simplify as, aside from scoring, what can he do? As if scoring is not a big part, if not the biggest part of the game. And Kawhi this year has made it clear and obvious that he is not only one of the best scorers in the league right now, but one of the best scorers of all time. The level of efficiency he's scoring at the rate he's scoring at, is very rare. In the regular season, Kawhi averaged roughly 27 points on roughly 50, 37, 85 splits, and in the playoffs he somehow managed to raise that up even more to 31 points per game on 51, 41, 89 splits, which is utterly ridiculous. As far as his skill set, it has evolved into one of the most complete offensive games I have ever seen. He can now take you off the dribble with a plethora of moves. He doesn't have handles like a Kyrie or even a Kevin Durant, but he has enough to get to his spots consistently. He now has a legitimate pull-up three. He has an extremely deadly mid-range game. He can play off-ball very well as well. He's shown time and time again to be one of the league's best closers and clutch performers, but also with his playmaking ability, while not being nearly good enough to be considered elite, I feel like just from watching the games from the eye test, more often than not he does make the right basketball play. But now, that's just on offense. Now we covered the defensive side of the court where Kawhi can still make the argument as being the best defender in the NBA. And the only reason why he wasn't in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation this year was because guys like Giannis and Rudy Gobert had defensive productions that translated to the top two defenses in the league and had numbers you can show to people to back up the vote. But just by watching the game, you can clearly see that Kawhi is still the defender we all fell in love with back in 2013/2014. His crazy wingspan and strength is still extremely hard to deal with. He's very quick on his feet, is still a versatile defender despite not being as versatile as Giannis per se. His IQ is phenomenal, one of the best on-ball defenders in NBA history. I mean, the guy has 2 Defensive Player of the Years on his sleeve for a reason. Kawhi Leonard cons. Looking at Kawhi Leonard's game, there really aren't a lot of weaknesses in this game, aside from, I would say, playmaking. Like I said earlier, he has never been considered a good playmaker, However, I do believe that he is slightly better than what his numbers say. Also, compared to other superstars in the league, I would say he is the worst ball handler / playmaker out of the group, which is again his biggest weakness. My input. So now that we've looked at the pros and cons of both Giannis and Kawhi's game, let's talk about my input as to who I believe is better in my opinion. So to me, the Giannis versus Kawhi debate in terms of skill set is very similar in my opinion to the LeBron versus Kobe debate when that was going on when they were both in the league. On one hand, you have this freakishly talented player who has gifts and abilities that can't be replicated. However, has serious flaws in his games that can be taken advantage of and can be game planned for in Giannis. On the other hand, you have this player who, yes, may not be as gifted as the other in some areas, as like I said, the other player is extremely unique because of it, but when you really look into his game, is an extremely well-rounded player that doesn't really have any weaknesses aside from maybe one or two things. So personally, like I said, right now, I do believe I would rather have Kawhi on my team, as I actually believe it's much easier to build around him because of his ability to play off ball, and again, he doesn't have a lot of flaws in his game. However, if I'm building a team for the future, I would much rather have Giannis, as he is only 24 years old, and the fact that he is already arguably the best player in the league speaks volumes. So like I said in the beginning of the video, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below on who you believe is the better player, and check the Gleam link in the description in order to vote on who you believe is the better player. Again, as a reminder, by answering the poll through the link, you will automatically be entered in a $25 Amazon gift card giveaway that will be announced after the poll has ended on my Twitter. So follow me as well to stay up to date on that. Also, let me know what the next Battleground video should be. I am highly excited to bring the series back to the channel in the right way. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I am out. Peace.